Hi friends, welcome back to Delsie's. Okay, so while I'm doing my story time today, I'm going to, have you ever heard of scar tape? This is scar tape. Now I've seen on the internet where people are taking scar tape and they're going to bed with it on all the places where their wrinkles are, and apparently makes a huge difference. Now it's only temporary, but I thought, I'm going to try it. Now I did face tape one night and it lasted for all of, well, I took the tape off, looked in the mirror, was pleased as pudding, and by the time I got upstairs, all my wrinkles were back. So this is scar tape. So apparently this is supposed to be way better. We're going to see. Guys, I don't mind aging, but it doesn't hurt to try to help yourself out a bit, does it? I mean, that's it. We all get to age gracefully, but gracefully doesn't mean that you can't do a little twerks here and there. So while I'm doing this, and I took a before picture and I took an after picture, or I'm going to take an after picture when I take it off, because people go to bed with this on. I don't think I'll be able to do it. I tried the last time I did it, it drove me nuts. So I said I'll just put it on while I'm going around the house doing stuff today, and later on this evening I'm going to take it off to see if there's a difference. So yeah, you can see all my wrinkles. So I'm going to start with my forehead. So I was just thinking about when I used to be younger, and there's a story that I tell that is kind of funny, but it's not funny. So I don't know if you recall, like I told you before that I always felt, well, not always, well, yes, I always felt like there was something, like I was missing out on something, like someone had this everybody had this big secret that I wasn't let in on. Like everyone knew how to communicate really good. I was really bad at communicating. I just always felt like there might be something different about me. And it's only since I got older, and I used to say this at work as a joke, but I really meant it. Like if I did something wrong, I used to say, now boys, you know, I'm undiagnosed on the spectrum. Now I'm not trying to make fun of anyone. Seriously, if you know me, you know that's not what I'm doing. But I really do believe, looking back on it, that I was on the spectrum somehow. I don't know how, but I really do believe it. Me and my mom were reading an article, and things that I done as a kid that everyone thought was funny and cute was actually signs of autism. So who knows? I'm just saying. I don't know. And what does that change in my life at this point? Nothing. But so I remember when I was in school, like I struggled in school. And we come from a generation that when you had homework, your parents didn't do your homework like they do now. Like I remember when my young fellow was about 11 or 12, he had to do a project, and he had to pick a Newfoundland captain, an old Newfoundland captain, and do, or any kind of Newfoundland captain, and do a project on him. So I remember he told me like a week before that it was due. And I can remember saying to him, helping him out with this project and going to the library. And we picked Captain Abram Kane because Captain Abram Kane was from, well, it used to be called Norton's Cove then, I think, when he was out there. But from Brookfield, where my nan's family's from. So, well, that's who we picked. And the Kanes used to have a store out there, the family. It wasn't Abram Kane's store. I think it was his brother had the store. But anyways, we had picked Captain Abram Kane, and I took him to the libraries on the weekend, and we sat down every night and worked for hours on this project. So we did take a picture of the Kane's house, the one that's left there in Brookfield, and mentioned that this was part of the family that he used to belong to, and this was his house. And you know what my young fellow said to me when we had the project almost done, like after a week of working on this project, and after me telling him who Captain Abram Kane was and looking up all the history on Captain Abram Kane and everything, doing the project, you know what he turned around and said to me when he was looking at the poster board? He said, geez, he said, that looks like the house that's by Nan Mercer's house. I could have clocked them, because I'm like, hello, that's what we've been working on. Like, have you not listened to anything? But that's what happens when you do your kids' homework, isn't it? Because I come from a generation that if you had homework, your parents didn't sit down and do it with you. They didn't have time. You had to do your homework yourself. And when you went to school and you didn't have your homework done, you got sent to the principal's office. And you got in trouble. You got the strap. Like, I come from the generation where we went to school and you got the strap when you didn't have your homework done, or you got sent out in the hallway. And I was famous for it because I never did homework. I wish, if I had my time back, I wish I did, because I never failed. I just didn't do my homework. I don't know if it was just that, I think I just had struggled with it so much that I didn't want to do it. I don't know. Or maybe I'm like I am now and I put everything off. I don't know. But I know that I used to get the strap for not doing my homework. I did. And now you go to school. If you looks at the child the wrong way, the parents are in the office freaking out. But anyways, that's a whole other story. But yeah, and you know, it's something I can remember the principal of our school. I actually really liked him, even though he would give me the strap. He was a dark teacher. He was black, and he had some connection to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I can't remember what it was, but he was so nice. I can't remember his name, but he used to give me the strap, but of course it wasn't very hard. But I've seen him give the strap to boys, and it was really hard. But anyways, yeah, like your parents just, if you had homework, it was your responsibility to do it. If you didn't do it, you paid the consequences. When you got to school, you got the strap. So I remember this one day, I was probably in grade 4, and I had this mean teacher, Mr. Wilson. This was in Stony Creek. And I was scared of him. So he started, like, we were all doing our work in the classroom, and he started calling names. And I had a feeling, look, I can hardly talk now, but I had a feeling as he was calling these names that I was going to be called, because the kids he were calling were all the kids that were struggling in the class. And I remember thinking, like, oh my God, I'm going to be called, because these are all the kids that are probably going to end up in special ed. And for those of you who don't know what special ed was a separate class for the same grade, but it was for kids that were struggling. So I think they got away with it. They give it away, or it doesn't happen anymore. But anyways, that's besides the point. But that was the place you did not want to go. You did not want to go to special ed. So he was calling all these kids, and they would go and sit by his desk, and he would do something with them for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then they would have to go sit down. And I was like, oh my God, I know he's going to call me. I know he's going to call me. So of course, my name gets called. So I go to his desk, and he, even though he was scary, he was kind of nice. So he passed me this a piece of paper and a pencil, and he said, I want you to read this piece of paper. He said, then I want to take this other piece of paper, and I want you to write the answers on this sheet. I'll never forget this, boys. It was such a freaky thing that happened to me. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to end up in special ed. And it's funny because, I don't know, I call it divine intervention, but maybe it's just the way my brain works. I don't know. But I can remember seeing this piece of paper and panicking, like panicking. I looked at the paper, but I can't remember absorbing the information. And I can remember hearing this voice is like telling me, like, no, this is not going to happen, Della. I promise you this is not going to happen. And I was like, okay, but it is going to happen. So as I started doing the test, believe you not, or believe me you, like, it was like I could see that piece of paper in front of me, and I was writing all the answers. And when I passed the piece of paper back to the teacher, he was almost stunned. He was kind of like, okay, it was like he wasn't expecting that. And it's funny because all the other kids ended up in the special ed classroom, and I didn't. So whatever happened, like I call it divine intervention, because I think that it was just another, like, I believe that God leads your life where it's supposed to be. And at that point, he had a plan for me, and it wasn't to be in special ed. Now, that sounds funny. Like, it wasn't to, like, what is the big deal? It wasn't to be in special ed. But I think every moment of your life is planned by God. And I think that, now in my mind, that's what happened. In my mind, God gave me the answers. Because I remember even leaving his desk and thinking, like, I don't know what happened there, but I just saw the answers, and I just did that test, and I passed, even though I don't know what the frig it was or what I wrote down. I can't remember absorbing any of the information, but I never ended up in special ed. Now, in saying that, I've never ever failed in school, even though I never ever did any homework. I promise you, I never did any homework. I personally think it's because I couldn't focus on it. I just couldn't do it. And if I tried to do my homework, it was like, I just couldn't do it. It was, so I don't think it was that I was like, did not want to do it. I think it was that it was so hard for me that I couldn't. So later on in years, when I went to college and university, and I'll talk about university because that's the last thing I did, and that's what I remember most. So I remember in university, I'd be sitting in the class, and you'd hear the instructor talking, and you'd have your book open, and he would say something, and you were looking at the page, and you were listening to him. And I would go home in the evenings and study, because now I'm more mature and I'm an adult, and I realize, like, you have to study. So I used to sit in my room, and I'd start reading to study. And I would notice that I was going down the page, but I wasn't, whatever I was reading, I wasn't absorbing. I was thinking about laundry. I was thinking about dishes. I was thinking about everything but what I was reading. And it used to frustrate me so much because I'd be like, okay, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. And I would get into the test, the exam. And it's funny because I would read the question, and I would remember the teacher. And when I remembered the teacher, the instructor talking, it was like I could see that page in front of me. That's why I never really failed, I think, because when it came to crunch time, exam time, I could pass. So some people say that people have that gift that they can see. I don't see that in me, because you could tell me your name and you'll have to repeat it 20 times. I don't have a photographic memory. But when it comes down to stuff like that, it's like, for some reason, I can retain that information without even knowing I'm retaining it, if you understand what I'm saying. So, it's your opinion. Is it divine intervention, which is what I believe? Because I really don't think my brain can work like that. I really have a hard time accepting that my brain, like, if you know me, I can ask you a question, and 5 minutes later, I might ask you the same thing, because my brain is like, blah, 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 blah. It's constantly like moving all over the place. I'm agitated. I'm addled all the time. So I think it was divine intervention. Yeah. Or do you think, maybe that is how my brain works? I don't know. But I just know that I got through school not because I worked hard and I studied, or I felt like I ever learned anything. I can't remember ever learning anything. But when it came down to crunch time, when, like, even the end of the year, final exams, that's when I used to do really good. And it was almost like I could see my classroom, I could hear the instructor, and I could see my page, that page. So studying for me didn't work. It did not work. I can't remember ever studying and feeling like I got anything out of it. Yeah, so that's just my story for today. So tune back later on, because I'm going to take these, I'm going to take the scar tape off and see if it lessens my wrinkles. I should put some on the sides here too. That's what I'm going to do. But anyways, thanks guys. Bye.